I found in that moment that I had purpose for all the pain that I had been through. Like there was something to it, and I had a passion for sharing my story and for sharing hope with people.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Jamie Tall.
I went and I got a job at Denny's and was waitressing, but I was still I was still using drugs, and I still, kept some customers, and ended up getting ended up getting hooked up with these guys, which were like really weird. These are like the weirdest guys ever. And they were like these guys on like the dark web, and they like had these, I think they were like some kind of like weird satanic cult or something. I'm not sure. They were just very strange. Um, and they were pretty scary. And after that, I made another geographical change. And my mom, since my dad dying, moved to Georgia from Florida. So I came with her. And I thought, like, okay, now I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to do all the things, And believe it or not, we moved right next to a crack house. And within 2 months, I'm working at like this multicultural bar, dancing on the bar and bartending. and and they got, so much cocaine going out of that place. It's crazy. And of course, my best friend is like the uncle who's like the coke guy, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just, man, all over again. It was crazy, and it seemed like every time I was trying to, do the right thing, I would just get pulled back in. Just, I don't know. It was so hard. I couldn't understand like why I couldn't stop. Like I wanted to, but I couldn't. And um, then I ended up hooking up with this other girl, and like she had an escort agency, so I ended up like joining her, and we went around, made a bunch of money. We used to like, I had some doctors who were, customers or whatever, so like I would literally go for like a doctor's appointment, and I would trade, we would trade sex for prescriptions. And
From doctors?
yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
God. They do that type of stuff?
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow. I've
Yeah.
never heard nothing like that before.
Oh
That's the first
yes.
time I've ever heard anything like that.
Oh yes. And at first, I was just like selling the pills, right? Because that wasn't my deal. I didn't do anything like that. I always did uppers, right?
Yeah.
And then one day, I just I started taking some Percocets, and I was like,
Hold on. Hold
oh,
on 1 second. All right, we're back.
okay. So yeah, I started kind of just taking like some Percocets or whatever. I was taking like Percocets and Adderall or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is okay, And um, I end up, me and my kid's dad ended up trying to work things out again. He moved to Georgia. We ended up renting a house, and I got a job just waitressing at a strip club here in Atlanta. Just waitressing, you know. But I was waitressing, and I was eating Percocets, and before long, it was like I was eating like, one or two Percocets like every night. And then I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. And what I didn't realize at this point was that, when I didn't have these pain pills, I started not feeling so great. And I was like, "Oh, I need more of these, And sometimes I couldn't get Percocet, so sometimes I had to do oxys, and sometimes I had to do, um morphine and Dilaudid, and all of this, and I'm pregnant, right? And the further along pregnant I get, the more nervous and scared I'm getting, because I'm like, I'm pregnant. Like, I need to stop taking these. Like, I need to detox off of these pills because I don't want it to affect like my pregnancy, right? But I couldn't stop. Like, no matter what I did, I couldn't stop. So at 7 months pregnant, I ended up coming clean to my doctor and told her, that because I had a prescription from my OB for Percocets because of some nerve stuff that I had. But I told her, listen, I'm dependent on these, and I've been taking them a little bit more than I should be, which
And
was
they
half
they
truth.
cut you off right away. Boom.
No, they didn't.
No.
Because they couldn't, because I was
Oh, because
seven
you were
months pregnant.
pregnant. Yeah.
Yes. So I couldn't detox. Otherwise I could have like a miscarriage. So they told me, okay, what we'll do is, we will keep your daughter, because I'm having a girl. We'll keep your daughter in the NICU for like a week, and we'll just observe her, put her in for observation. Sure, everything will be fine. And that was not what happens. Um, when I had her, they took her from me right away. They wouldn't let me even be in the same room with her by myself. Um, she ended up being in the NICU for 6 weeks, and they had to put her on morphine and phenobarbital for seizures. And I was just devastated. Like, I was just done with myself, you know, just done. Um, and went home and ate a bottle of Klonopins. Um, ended up like waking up like the next day, and it was really hard. They ended up giving custody to my mom, and my parents, my mom and my family, my sister and brother, were just like so angry with me. They were just like, couldn't believe, like, how could I do that? And I was the same, right? Like, I don't know, like, how could I do that, right? Like, what, like, why couldn't I stop using, even for this little girl that I loved so much? And so this actually brought me to the first time that I ever went to detox. First, I tried going to the methadone clinic. That didn't work for me
Tried to
because,
do it
like,
yourself, right?
every time I would go to the clinic, they drug test you like every week, and every week the counselor would call me into his office, and he would say, Jamie, you scored 100 on your drug test again. Like, are you trying to kill yourself here? And I was like, no, it's just a really good week, right? It's just a good week.
Yeah.
And so then it became a circle of detoxes, institutions, jail, just over and over again.
Oh, you kept getting arrested. What were you getting arrested for?
One time I got arrested for being in a crack house that got raided.
Walk me
That
through that day. What happened
oh
that time?
that was terrifying. So everybody thought that, like, we didn't know if we were just tweaking out or what, because we kept seeing people with like leaves on them. It looked like people wearing leaves outside the house. And one of my friends tried to warn me, but I was just like so high that I didn't want to leave, right? And so I remember being like upstairs, because I was the crack dealer's girlfriend, right? Like, if you were a drug dealer, you had drugs in your pocket, I was your girlfriend, right? And so I was upstairs, and uh I remember just hearing this loud bang, and then hearing like voices of people screaming. And this was a house that had, I mean, no electricity, no running water, right? And then they came in the bedroom door with guns pointed at me, and I was just like, whoa, like, terrified. Brought us all downstairs. There were probably like 13 of us, and about half of us got arrested, and the other half they let go.
Did he have a lot of
So
drugs on him when they busted in?
he actually wasn't there, so they ended up getting him afterwards. So, but that was the first time that I actually like went to jail for a period of time. So I went for 20 days. And the really interesting thing about that was I was in this, cell with these two other women who had issues and experience with drugs and recovery. And it was the first time that I ever felt I like someone understood me, right? Um and I remember she gave me a Bible, and it was the first time I had like read a Bible in like a really long time. And after 20 days of being in there, I ended up getting out. The charges got dropped or whatever, because the drug dealer had taken all of the charges for everything, and went back to my mom's house, and just and really was trying to do the right thing again. But it didn't last long. It never did. So it was really hard. It was like in and out, back and forth. I felt like I would do good for a little while, and then I would just be wiling out again. And that was probably continued to happen. um I got mixed up with some really bad guys. Ended up getting trafficked, and was with these guys for like 3 years. And
So
that
for the
was
people out there that are listening, what is
mhm.
getting trafficked even like? Like, because people hear about that all the time, and they might not even know what that is.
Sure. So, basically, what that is like is, um, these guys basically just like fed you drugs. Like they would feed me drugs, and I would do sexual acts, and if I didn't do sexual acts, I didn't get more drugs, right? Now, it wasn't like a thing where I was like, it was like, you have to stay here or we're going to kill you. It wasn't like that. It was more like a, I want to go home, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go home. And they would like shake a pill bottle at me. Oh, you want to leave? Are you sure? You know what I'm saying? And then I would just kind of like sit back down, right? So it was like they were like literally like controlling you like with the drugs, cuz what am I going to do? Am I going to be sick? Right? What am I going to do? And so I mean, there was a lot of this time that I really don't even remember.
Yeah.
I know I would like wake up. Sometimes I would wake up and I would be like tied up, no clothes on, have no idea what happened. I would find like pictures in my phone. Like it was just a very strange time. I can't really explain to you like what was happening. I can tell you it was demonic, that's for sure. And I got kind of rescued out of that. It was in that time also that I really like found my faith in that time as well, because you're like you're stuck in a situation, and there's nowhere else to look but up, right? And so I ended up kind of like really repenting and just coming back like to God, and just kept asking God to like help me and like save me, and don't leave me here in this place. And it was dark, man. Those places are so dark. There's like a lot of like witchcraft and like weird like orgies. There's like some weird stuff that happens in
They
these
make you do
places.
things against your will, because a lot of people out there probably think sex trafficking is like you're handcuffed to a bed, and they just do whatever, but it's not like that, right? The whole time.
Mm-mm. No, no, it's not like that the whole time. No. It's more like it's like a control, like they control and manipulate you. And it wasn't, I wasn't the only girl. There were other girls there, you know what I mean? And um basically it's like, you're there was like a crew of them, of like these guys. There was, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13.
And do
They
you
would
think they care about you, the people? Do you are
You know, the crazy thing is that sometimes, like, you do think so. I know that I was pretty sick at the end. When I got out of it, the main guy who had we'll call it the vested interest in me, the main guy, I got arrested one night and he died. And that was how I got free from that whole thing.
so?
Um,
Can you explain how that happened?
yeah, sure. So I was going with one of the other guys to drop off drugs to somebody or something. I think, yeah, going to drop off some pills or pick up some pills or something like that, and ended up getting pulled over. And I had a warrant for my arrest, which was interesting because it was like a warrant from something from like 5 years before. It was just so random. It was like I literally got like rescued, you know? And um so yeah, they took me to jail and went so interesting. I actually went back to the same exact jail that I stayed 20 days in that first time. And I stayed 20 days in that time too. And it was so odd. I'm telling you, it was so supernatural. Like it was like the same people were in there. It was so crazy. Like I specifically remember this one girl sitting at this table, and I remember the same conversation we had from the first time. And I said to her, she's sitting at this metal table, and she says, "Oh, I remember you from Cookie's house." And I said, "You said that to me last time I was here." Like, it was so weird. It was so
That is wild.
supernatural. But I just knew that it was God just like pulling me back. Like I was just doing like this whole, like, okay, you went in here, now you're coming out here. And I just knew that this time when I got out, things were going to be different. And I didn't know how or why, but I just knew that they were. I started having like dreams about things, about me being in this different place. And I remember when I went in front of the judge right before they let me go, he said, "Okay, we're going to put you on a 4 year probation, like a felony probation. So, what that means is you cannot fail a drug test or get in trouble for the next 4 years, or you're going to go to prison."
For four
And,
years.
mm-hmm,
So
and,
it's 4 years, like hanging over your head for
mm-hmm,
4 years.
yes,
Oh
yes.
man.
So, I realized in that moment that I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to not pass a drug test. I didn't know how to not get in trouble, right? Especially not for 4 years. Like, how was I going to do that? And so I decided that I needed to do something different. I didn't know exactly what it was. But when I got out, I got a phone call from a lady who I used to sell drugs with who was getting out of prison. And she said, "Hey, getting out of prison, going to this sober living in Athens, and I think you should come." And it was like just everything in me, it was like full surrender. And I was just like, yes. Like that was just all I could say, yes. And I left everything and when like I think a couple days after that had happened is when the guy had died just randomly from something. And so it was like, I had like it was like that was the only door that was open, right?
How'd he
Like I
die?
couldn't
From a heart attack or something? Did he get shot or like?
I think it was like health complications cuz he was a little older than me. Um
Is
at the
his little
time,
group still operating, or you don't know what happened to everybody?
it's kind of interesting that there was a lot of them that have died, just some weird random deaths. Just very interesting. I don't know.
It could be
Just random.
karma. It could
Yeah.
be, you know.
I mean, I don't know. I just know that the Lord lets me know every time one of them does. Somehow I find out and I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." God
Did
bless
you
them.
go to church before, like when you were younger? Did you go to church?
I grew up Catholic. So I grew up like very Catholic, prayed the rosary all the time, checked off all the boxes. But it wasn't until actually I came into the sober living that I became a Christian and had a relationship with Jesus.
So, how old were you at this point, and what is it like to step into a sober house for the first time?
So I was, let's see, it was 2015. So I was 35. And this is so interesting because the sober house is in Athens, Georgia. Anybody knows Athens, Georgia? This is home of UGA. Go Bulldogs. Everything here is red and black. It's like a whole, like, you're on a campus, a university campus, right? Like everywhere you go. So I go to this house and I walk in this door, and there is this big house with 13 other girls. So it was a sober living campus. So there was probably in total 80 men, 60 women on this campus. And this specific house I walk into, it was like a sober sorority. It was so weird, but it was very comforting because I was with all these women who were trying to do the same things that I wanted to do: have a relationship with their kids, have jobs, get on their feet, not be in that kind of lifestyle anymore. And I had a room with a twin bed, and it was mine, and it was safe. I had a dresser to, with some drawer, like half a dresser to put my clothes in. I had half of a closet. I had a kitchen full of food. I didn't have to worry about if I was going to eat or not eat. A bathroom with shower, and I knew I was going to be able to shower, and all these women. And for the first time, I didn't have to be alone, so it was pretty amazing. And I remember like my third day there, the director was sitting down across the table from me, and she said, "Do you know why you're here?" And I was like, "Not really. I really don't know why I'm here." And she said, "It's because somebody sees something in you that you can't see for yourself." And that just like blew my mind. Like, to think that somebody could see something in me, and I just did whatever they said, right? Like, I did whatever they said. They told me to go to meetings, I went to meetings. They told me to get a sponsor, I got a sponsor. They told me to walk around and job search and get a job, I did. I got 2 minimum wage jobs. I didn't have a car. I had to take the bus. It was very humbling. um, and, I ended up, my counselor there had just came from a faith-based ministry, and he was a deliverance minister. And so he kind of started, like, discipling me and, giving me different, projects and tasks and talking to me about God. And I started telling him like the things that happened to me. And he was really the first person to ever like look at me and say like, "Oh yes, I've heard of these things happening before." And I'm like, "Oh, you mean you don't think I'm just crazy?" Like, it's like, "Oh no, this is very common. We see this all the time in the addiction world." And so that was like really comforting. And so I just started like working on things, I think at 89 days sober is the first time I told my story. And it was in the crisis unit in Athens, which I had actually been to twice. So it was cool being on the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
And going in and telling people my story and saying like, I have 89 days sober, and I used to be where you are, on this side, and there's hope, and you can do this. And just the lights coming on in people's eyes. I found in that moment that I had purpose for all the pain that I had been through. Like there was something to it, and I had a passion for sharing my story and for sharing hope with people.
Yeah. Like when you were sitting in the detox, did you ever think that you would be on the other side talking to people?
Never.
No, right?
No. I mean, I think I was trying to figure out who I was going to hook up with to get drugs when I was in the detox.
How to get out of there, what schemes you're going to pull, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and then it just, it led to like this really like amazing journey. I mean, at 6 months sober, I got baptized.